everyone, it's Tiffany with Ready, Set, Create. Welcome back to my 12 by 12 Days of Christmas. I'm showing you 12 days of tips, tricks, and techniques for your holiday scrapbook layouts. Today is day 6. Let's get started. This layout is inspired by the song Winter Wonderland, and I'm using the Snowflake Chain Border Maker cartridge to create some snowflakes. So I'm going to repeat this process a couple of times using up that whole piece of scrap paper to make multiple snowflake chains. I've been working in my happy album this year, so I trim down a piece of white paper for my background each time, so I end up with this whole stack of leftovers when I trim from the 12 by 12 to make my happy album pages. So here's a little technique that I'm going to show you. I know that I can get another chain out of that piece of paper, but it's not quite big enough to fit into the tray and have the magnet hold on to it. So I'm going to grab a couple of Post-it notes and just stick those onto the paper so that the magnet can hold down the Post-it notes and keep that paper in place. And that lets me get that very last bit of paper used for the snowflake. And Post-it notes are always one of those things that I keep in my tool caddy. So I will use it for my border maker. I will use it to make notes on something I want to work on later. I'll practice my journaling or my title. I always need to have my Post-it notes. I find them very, very handy to have. Now I'm going to clean up all those scraps, and if you were feeling ambitious, you could save all the little snowflake pieces that you punch out of there. I will end up grabbing a couple at the end to put on my layout, but I don't at this moment. This blue paper is a really pretty pattern from the Snowbound collection. I think I only have one more full piece of paper left in my Snowbound collection. I've had that one for a couple of years, so I'm really happy to be using up more of my stash. And I'm trimming this down. I'm just trimming a half an inch off of two sides, or actually a full inch off of two sides, so that I will have an 11.5-inch square piece of that navy paper as my background. And it's going to end up sitting on the white as a frame, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm first going to build my background. And my idea was just to fill the whole thing with this snowflake chain. So I'm using my repositionable adhesive to add a few spots of adhesive on the back there. And then I'm going to put this on the paper at a diagonal. And I'm just going to find the best spot to start it and then build off from there. And each time I add another chain, I'm just moving it slightly so they're kind of nesting inside each other, and they're just off a little bit so it's not a straight line of snowflakes. I am going to need to trim off some of the excess, and I'm going to need to do a little bit of kind of surgery at the end to fill in the gaps along the edges where the border didn't quite make it. Now I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to fill the entire layout with the snowflake chain, and I didn't think that you would want to watch a whole video of that. So I punched out a bunch beforehand so that they were ready to go. So kind of the magic of television. There's a whole pile of snowflake chains ready to go. And this is a fun technique to try with your Border Maker cartridges, just to build your layout with that design. It makes for a really pretty design. I used the hexagon cartridge a few years ago and built a whole background white on white. So it was white hexagons on top of the white background, and it looked really pretty. I think it was called honeycomb, not hexagon. It was called honeycomb, and it looked really, really pretty. And I thought the snowflakes would be really striking against the navy, and I'm really liking how it's coming out. The snowflakes are kind of delicate, and I use thin paper, so I am finding that I'm ripping some of them as I'm trying to adhere them down, but afterwards I'm going to fix all that, and you wouldn't even know it. I also did this technique a few years ago. I think it was called the double rainbow scallop maybe, and I actually punched each one out in a different color in rainbow order and put them against a black background, and that was really pretty too. I placed that border a little too close to the previous one, so that's why using repositionable for this project is key, so that you can adjust as necessary, because you really want to make sure that your lines are all pretty parallel to each other. Otherwise something's going to be a little bit off. So now I'm going to use just the smaller pieces here and there to fill in the gaps that I have on the top left and the bottom right, to fill in that whole square. And I'm trimming off all the edges now because some of those little pieces are going to be exactly what I need to fill in the gap. So I'm just going to trim everything right now using my microchip scissors. And then I'll really get a better idea of where I need to fix any spots that are missing snowflakes. A couple more trims of those pieces that I just added, and then I think it'll be time to start to put this layout together. And this part was kind of fun. It was like putting together a little puzzle and just finding the right pieces of the border that I could add to those little pieces that were missing a bit of the border. Now I'm grabbing my regular permanent adhesive and, oh, this one has run out. Takes me a few tries to figure that one out. Grabbed a new one. And I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back so I can stick this onto the white background. Gently press that down into place, and then I pulled out my Snowbound collection. I always keep my collections in these project folders. It just keeps everything nice and organized. And I grabbed a couple cards that I thought would be good to use as my mats, and this card says Snowbound, so I'm going to use that as my title. Really simple and easy to make that title. And I was working on my Christmas cards last night, so my new photo trimmer is upstairs and wasn't in my craft room because I was using it for my cards. So luckily I still have this old one down on my craft table, so I grabbed that just so I can trim this card. I just wanted to trim the excess and just have the Snowbound title. And then I'm going to use this large card for a mat and then trim this other card into two pieces. And I can use that either for 2 3x4 photos, or I can do one photo and one journaling card. I'm not sure what this layout will be used for yet, so I'm just kind of moving around the placement and trying to figure out what works best. So I had the placement figured out, and now I'm going to dress up this title a little bit. I'm just going to cut a fishtail banner at one end, and then I'm going to grab my twine and dress up the left-hand side of that title. There's my whole big messy drawer of twine, and I grabbed 2 colors that I thought would work. I have this light blue, and then I have one that's like a turquoise and a gray. I thought I had a navy and white, but I couldn't find it. So the light blue I feel like just blended in too much. So I'm going to end up going with the turquoise just so it stands out a little bit more. And I'm just going to wrap it around the banner a couple of times and then just tie a knot. I don't do bows. I can't tie a bow to save my life. So I always just do this technique and tie a knot and call it a day. It's one of those things when I'm by myself, not recording, I can tie a knot no problem. And for some reason, I know I'm recording and my hands are like, we're not going to tie a knot for you right now. We're going to fumble through this. But there you go, just a little bit of twine wrapped around the title like that, just to add a little bit of texture and a little something extra to that title. And now I'm grabbing my craft foam and I'm going to put a piece of that behind the title just to have it stand out a little bit on the layout. And I will often use craft foam when it's a big chunk that I need for something like this. Rather than using a whole bunch of foam squares, I'll just use one big piece of craft foam. Just makes it a little quicker and easier. And then just grab some liquid adhesive to put on the back, and I'll be able to stick that down on my layout. And that's it for that one. Pretty quick and easy, really nice, elegant layout. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.